Our mission at SD Bullion is clear: the lowest cost gold and silver available online. While we do not have pretty blue boxes, free shipping, 4% credit card fees, or glamorous gold and silver infomercials, SD Bullion has the lowest prices that may save you hundreds on your next order. So before you make your next investment, do the math and join the over 15,000 new customers who have recently made the switch to SD Bullion. Why pay more?
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with FinanceAndLiberty.com, and back with us today is the Gold Antitrust Action Committee's Bill Murphy. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Elijah, and a great day on top of that.
Definitely, and we were just discussing before the interview how the silver market really seems like it's changing, the environment in the silver market. Did you want to discuss first a little bit about this?
Yeah, because I think it's a big deal. I've been harping on it in my La Metropole Cafe commentary for 3 weeks, and it's really quite extraordinary because silver is trading totally differently than it did for 5 years. Not 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. And the way it's been moving up, you've got the so-called commercials, which is the gold cartel selling, and everybody for not just a week or two, but for months, expecting them to kill the market, and everybody, it's created fear. And yet silver's trading differently. It keeps going up and up and up. The gold cartel attack last Thursday was ridiculous, $70 and minutes, and then they did it again early in the week. They tried it again today, and silver just comes back in their face. And this is extraordinary market action. And because it's been dead so long, people are expecting it to get killed again, and it keeps making new highs. And it's formed a massive base, and if it takes out 1850, you're likely to see a rocket ship. And people just don't seem to be prepared for it, and that's what makes it even more exciting.
Do you see that it's possible it could take out the, $50 high anytime soon?
I think the move up is going to be much more volatile than anybody expects. Think of one of my rants has been Newton's law, and it's finally starting to happen of equal and opposite reaction to the action of these suppressed prices. And so I think once silver takes out 1850, which is my key, it's going to be very volatile on the upside. We'll get to 50 even faster than it did in 2011. And eventually, maybe after taking it out in a good correction, and this time instead of keep going down, it'll shoot for 100. That's my game plan. It's been that way for a while.
Wow, well, it'll be very exciting to look for that in the coming future. And I guess, what do you see happening in the gold market?
Well, gold just breaking out from a 2-month base. I mean, between, it's going sideways, and today it's taking out its highs for the year with a massive support behind it. All the things that so many fine people that you interviewed have articulated the reasons for gold to go up are finally taking hold. The gold cartel is trying to keep it down. The open interest in silver is at an all-time high, and in gold, the preliminary numbers today have it going up something 25,000 contract to a multi-year high. So the bad guys, the gold cartel, the bullion banks, our government, and so on, are trying to keep the price down, and they're going bonkers trying to do so. But there's big, big money and interest behind it. Perhaps the new Chinese market's having a great deal of effect behind the scenes, and it's just taking off. And with the technical setup and the fundamentals the way they are, and the dollar under pressure, it's very exciting. It's gold's going to explode too. Of course, it will if silver will. And there's not a whole lot of excitement out there for what a number in our camp think is coming. I know the shares have been predictive of this the entire year. They hardly ever correct. In the last few days, they've just soared again. So I think the potential for many people to be left out of this move is more likely than people getting on board that have been on top, been with it for years, because they keep waiting for a correction.
Now, you guys have been talking for at least a decade, I think more than that gold and silver prices are manipulated. Now, just a week and a half ago, it came out that Deutsche Bank actually agreed to settle on a U.S. lawsuit. This is from Reuters. It says, Deutsche Bank agreed to settle U.S. lawsuits accusing it of conspiring with other banks to manipulate gold and silver prices at investors' expense. So it seems like this is pretty much proof that GATA has been right all along. What is your perspective on this?
Well, thank you, Elijah. We've only been saying this for 17 years. In God, it was formed. It's the most obvious thing I've ever seen in my life, and I think you have to have a IQ of less than a grapefruit, as my friend John Emery would say, not to understand what's been going on all these years. And the fun part of this is, and for our camp and for people that like the gold and silver markets, this is just the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg of what's going on. It's very important. We're talking about, a European operation in terms of what's being acknowledged. But the real deal is in the United States with our bullion banks and the government suppressing the price. And hopefully behind the scenes of this splendid lawsuit, which I hope the people involved in it make a lot of money from these banks because they deserve it, it could be leading to all kinds of things that will affect the market because of the fallout from this. And that's what I'm hoping for. And eventually when the gold and silver markets explode and there's defaults and all kinds of things happen, people are going to want answers of what occurred, and God will be there to supply them the answers. I mean, what this has done in terms of masking real economic things is too much to get into. Is extraordinary, but that's the way it is, and there's very exciting times for owners of gold and silver.
Definitely, and I'd like to get to this viewer's question now, which deals with the same topic, the lawsuit dealing with Deutsche Bank. This viewer asks, has the CFTC responded to any of the 3 gold manipulation scandals yet? Scandal 1, that Deutsche Bank was manipulating. Scandal 2, that the CFTC did an investigation and found nothing actionable. Scandal 3, that the CFTC had no idea Deutsche Bank admitted to the manipulation as reported on Bloomberg News until over a week later when GATA asked them about it.
Yeah, the CFTC won't even answer. Chris Powell, again, my colleague, doing a great job, won't even respond to what's going on here and make any comment. It's pathetic. And it wasn't really covered much by the mainstream. But it's a big, big deal. And it's going to be a big deal down the road. And, of course, naturally, all the people that have poo-pooed what God has had to say all these years all of a sudden say nothing. They go silent. But this is just the very beginning, and we know that, what the heck. The bullion banks have been fined, I don't know, mortgage loan $30 billion, $50 billion, pick a number, for rigging every other market. These are facts. It's on record. They paid the fines. Energy, currencies, we know the interest rates manipulated, the mortgages, everything. They've been fined for it. But the one thing they can't find any wrongdoing is silver. And that's what happened to CFC investigation your reader was responding to after 5 years. It's probably the most manipulated all, but again, and it's been proven now what's going on in Europe. The thing is here, it's covered up because the U.S. government's involved. So I don't know whether they're not allowed to say anything or whatever, but they won't. And eventually it's all going to come out in the wash.
So the same viewer is asking a follow-up question as well. They're wondering, what is GATA's next step after this revelation?
Well, again, all we try to do is point things out to people, and when I know from my standpoint, when there's obvious raids like there were when they dropped silver last week, 70 cents in minutes of what's going on here, because it's affecting a lot of people. I mean, and eventually it's going to be a big deal. So all we can do is try to point stuff out and make public appearances and just be very factual about what we're going to say. But we're persona non grata by the U.S. media, and even a lot of the conventions I used to speak at, all of a sudden they don't want me to show up anymore. I don't understand it, because God is the most bullish people going, because we know why the prices are so low where they are, even though they've come up recently. It's ridiculous. I mean, if gold had kept up with inflation, it would be double what it is today. Silver was $50 36 years ago, much less, 5 years ago. And these things are going to explode, and it's going to be very exciting. And all we can do is stay the course, and it's obviously it's gratifying to get some proof of what we've been talking about, so it shuts up these naysayers that do nothing but harm the whole industry and the people that invest in it.
Definitely. Now, getting to this next viewer's question, you're talking about how you see silver going just basically parabolic, going quickly to 50 and then 100 eventually. And they're wondering, do you see silver's price ever matching gold's price?
Oh, I doubt it. I mean, I don't even know about that. I mean, right now, heck, $50 would be great, but, I'm a big Eric Sprott fan, and he's been talking about $100 for silver for years, and he's been right about everything else. He's been wrong about silver, but Eric will be right again, and it's going to take out $100, and, there's probably maybe Eric, I can't speak for him, and other people that are even much more bullish. I know the numbers are thrown out there, and sure, that could happen. The silver just going to disappear. But getting to that price, no, I'd be just thrilled if it got back to a 16-to-1 ratio, with gold over silver. So, no, I don't think it'll ever go there. But you never know about any of these things. But all I am very confident of and have been is that silver is going to go bonkers.
And I know we've talked before about how there is possibly going to be a lot of shortages when this happens. And a lot of people have talked, about shortages in the past and present. And this next viewer is wondering, he asks, I've been hearing for years that gold and silver supplies are almost out. Yet every time I go to buy precious metals, there is plenty of inventory. So is there plenty of supply or not?
Well, it's a good question, good point. It's a tipping process, and it depends where you're talking about. From a GATA standpoint, we think the central banks who have been using their physical supply to suppress the price are running on fumes. And so that in fact, is running out. We don't know where they've got the silver from. Again, all the smartest guys I know in the business to keep the price so low. We believe that they're hitting the wall on that. And then, for example, one of the reasons I think that price of silver has changed so dramatically in terms of the way it's traded the past 3 weeks is that it's my opinion that you got this Texas hedging going on where you've got people that are own physical around it know it's the silver's being all cleaned up, and they're going long futures. Instead of selling it to hedge, they're going long the futures. It's called a Texas hedge. And that's the reason that when they have these raids, that the specs aren't puking out like they did for 5 years. Instead, the market goes right back up. So that's what I think is leading to this explosive market that we have coming.
Now, this viewer is wanting to know what your perspective is on what will happen to those holding paper silver, like ETFs, exchange-traded funds. What do you see when the price finally breaks out? People have talked about how SLV and other ETFs might not have the silver to back them up. So this viewer is wanting to know when the price finally rises, do you see people owning those ETFs will be able to cash out or not?
Well, it's a good question. It's a tricky one. There's different ETFs. I mean, SLV can do anything versus, if you deal in the Sprott ETF, you're going to get what you bargained for. And it's scary because of what could happen, so it's safer to, own the physical itself. And all I know is that if we have issues like this, it will prove everything that GATA has said about this whole thing being a fraud, because that should never happen. And, either got it or you don't have it. So I'll leave that up to others what they think is going to happen and so on. I'm very comfortable with everything I've said so far. In terms of that, there's real reason for concern. And, again, it's a great question, but how it plays out, I don't know. But if you have defaults, I can tell you this, it will only fuel the price that much higher.
All right. Well, Bill Murphy, thank you so much for joining us today. I guess before I let you go, are there any last thoughts you'd like to add, and where our viewers can find you on the internet?
Yeah, well, they can find GATA at GATA.org. My colleague Chris Powell does a great job, and I'm at LaMetropoleCafe.com. They can sign up for a 2-week free trial and see if my service is of value. And all I can say is this is a very, very exciting time, and it's, for anybody, it's the time for people to be paying attention about what's going on. I know a lot of people are all waiting for a correction, all waiting for things to go back down, and they're going to miss the whole move. And we've been saying it all year. It's not just recently, because of what's happened. And again, there's very little excitement about what's going on relative to what's occurring, and I think it's just going to be quite exciting in the months ahead, and very different.
This video was brought to you in part by ReluctantPreppers.com. Click here to watch Reluctant Prepper's latest interview with John Rubino from DollarCollapse.com. In this interview, Rubino discusses commonly heard lies about the economic recovery, debt, retirement, and immigration. Rubino also discusses what a prudent person can do to protect their family and profit from the coming collapse.